Welcome to this week's edition of the Life and Legacy Show, sponsored by the Sechler Law Firm, where great families make great estate plans. My name's Tim Sechler. I am your host right here each and every week, talking about all things estate planning, long-term care planning, asset protection. We discuss different things, different tools you may consider, like wills and trusts and powers of attorney, and different documents that we estate planners like to draw up for you, and why different people use these different tools. This show is intended to be educational for you. Please, I have to give my little, I'm a lawyer. I've got to give my little lawyer speech here. Don't make any legal or financial decisions based on what you'll hear on this or any other radio show for that matter. This is for your education and information. If you've got questions, you should reach out. My law firm is available anytime at 724-841-1393. Or you can check us out at our website, which is sechlerlawfirm.com, spelled S-E-C-H-L-E-R, lawfirm.com. And at the website, you'll find all kind of information. You can find lots of videos and different educational blog posts that we've done over the years, looking to get you the information you need to get to make the right decisions. And from time to time, we have guests on the show. And this year, we are highlighting some financial professionals that with whom we work pretty closely with. And I'm joined this week with a financial advisor by the name of Brian Pitell. Now, I've known Brian for probably 8-9 years. We have done some work off and on. So say hello to everybody.
Hello.
All right, now Brian has his primary office in the Wexford area, and well, I guess I'll let you give your background. So why don't you tell our listeners a little bit about what it is that you do?
All right. Again, my name is Brian Pitell. I'm the founder of BPG Planning, a fee-based financial services firm. I've been in the financial services business for 23 years, and last year we started BPG Planning, really with the intent to be able to deliver a more educational and personalized suite of services. The vast majority of my clients are looking to create streams of retirement income, or they are in retirement, and that type of planning often leads to estate planning and also the transition of wealth to the next generation. Okay, cool.
If you mentioned a thing I want to come back to in a little bit about you made a point to say that you are a fee-based financial advisory firm, and I want to come back to that because there are different ways that advisors get paid, and I think it's important when you're looking at advisors to understand that. But before we get into that, so tell people what BPG stands for, and sort of like, if somebody wants you to take a look at their things, if somebody's looking for an advisor at this point, what is that like onboarding process? What does this whole thing look like for you?
Sure. So first, BPG, aside from being my monogram, is build, plan, grow. Build a vision for your future. Plan your finances to support that vision, and then grow your life to realize that vision. The onboarding process, or I like to refer to it as a mutual interview, is an opportunity for someone to come in, learn more about how we work with people, the nature or our core competency of the work that we do, and for us to really understand where their motivation lies. Mm-hmm. So, some folks are looking to just simply completely be engaged in the market and look for hot stock or whatever that might be, but that's not the core nature of our work. Ours is really all-encompassing planning and really getting into the drivers behind.
What are the real goals? Like, what are we really talking about?
Exactly.
It's funny for me, like in the estate planning side, how often people will come in and I get to see people's details, the financial, their personal balance sheet, if you will, and most people don't keep a personal balance sheet, but that's essentially what we're talking about. And often the question they'll put to me, and I don't give financial advice, but they'll put to me the question like, can I stop working? Do I have enough money to retire? And I had a lady that was in here not too long ago with 7 figures and was doing what most people would consider to be pretty well in retirement, and sort of deathly afraid of running out of money, which from my experience, I don't think she's ever going to, right? But I can't really tell her that. But it was funny to me because I started asking, well, how much do you spend a month? And what do you really want retirement to look like? Like, you have enough money. If retirement looks to you like you're going to sit in your apartment and watch cable television for 30 years, you got plenty of money for that. But if what we're really talking about is a trip here or a trip there, and you want to go see a certain site somewhere around the world, and you want to be able to do a big vacation every year, or whatever the thing is, like, I can't tell you if you're well equipped for your journey until you tell me what the destination is. And I imagine that's kind of what you're talking about with your onboarding process.
Absolutely. I feel that the most important part of the financial planning process is that vision building phase.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you lack a clear vision, you're probably going to lack the emotional fortitude and courage to actually execute on the plan that's being built. The most challenging times are maybe times like right now, when we experience significant market volatility and you begin to doubt what it is that you're doing from a strategy standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're truly committed to the outcome, because it means something to you more than a number on a page, or
right.
I want to exit my current career at age 65. That's a very superficial type of goal.
Yeah. The question is always why. Not to sit on your couch and watch television. No, then you should keep working, right? I mean, you know, where are you going to find purpose after your career, right?
Correct.
And I really, you know, and I'm not sure that either of us encountered this conversation going this way, but this is a thing that, like, I would almost like to see people spend a lot more time on. Not almost. I would like to see people spend a lot more time on this, because so many people work their entire lives trying to accumulate a nest egg, right? And we're going to save as much as we can. We're going to save as much as we can. And at the end of the day, they've really never thought through why. Why do I want this number at the bottom? Is it security? Is it travel? Is it legacy for my grandchildren? Like, what is it? And then when we talk about, like, what it is, then now we can start to put some numbers behind it. I could put some legal documents behind it, right? And it just, so, like, I don't think, it's been my experience at least, I don't think every financial advisor speaks with their clients about this stuff. So, like, what are challenges? People are sort of inundated with advertisement. Like, if I turn on the television, I can't watch a 3-minute segment between the basketball games without seeing a commercial for a financial advisor.
Right.
How does somebody know if they're working with, like, an advisor that is not just good from, like, a dollars and cents standpoint, but, like, how do I know that this person is really looking out for me?
Well, one, that's a great question, Tim. It's something that I've spent quite literally years contemplating. It's not, the general public is at a distinct disadvantage when it comes to identifying professional services. I mean, it doesn't matter whether it's financial, tax, or legal. It's not like buying a car.
Right.
You can't line them up on a screen, compare the stats, and pick one. And it's very difficult to test drive.
Sure.
You don't want to take a financial advisor for a test drive for a couple years to see how it works out. So they go into an engagement somewhat handicapped. And I have never in 23 years had an individual or a couple come into the office and sit down and actually have thought out questions that would help them identify whether I was a good match for what it is that they wanted. So I really think that the first step in finding someone, and again, I use this initial engagement as I position it as a mutual interview, is you have to be armed with good questions. And good questions aren't always the most obvious. So what is the advisor's philosophy on overall planning and the client relationship? What does their process look like? And do they actually have a process? Does it live somewhere?
Right.
Is it in their marketing material? Can they tell you exactly what it is? Or are they making up their philosophy and process on the spot because you've asked them?
Right.
There's a distinct difference, obviously.
Now, let me dig into one, but before we do that, let's make sure that people understand how they can find you. So Brian's website, again, you're listening to the Life and Legacy Show. My name is Tim Sechler. I'm just your lowly estate planning attorney. Our guest today is Brian Pitell of BPG Planning, and his website is pretty easy to get to. It is bpgplanning.com, or you can give him a call at 724-719-3289. And for those of you who are geographically concerned, his office is in Wexford. You can throw a football and hit the interstate, and so it's pretty easy to get to from anywhere. Now, you mentioned I still want to come back to the fee thing, but you mentioned the advisor's philosophy, and this is a thing that like I really harp on with my clients is, look, we do a lot of good things from a technical standpoint. Like my attorneys, my team, we are really good at what we do. Okay, but I think that to some extent, clients assume I'm really good at what I do. I own a law firm, I'm a lawyer, I went to all the school, I was in school for a million years, and so there's a bit of an assumption that if you call a lawyer, the lawyer knows what they do, right? But I think an equally important thing is the philosophy. So like for me personally, and it's kind of like hand in hand, and I think this is why the relationship between the estate planner and the financial advisor matters, is because you're talking about their goals, I'm talking about their goals, right? To do an effective estate planning isn't just about who gets the stuff when you pass away. It's about, what does the legacy mean? And what happens if we get really, really sick before you pass away? So like part of my philosophy and the attorneys that work here in the office, what our philosophy is, yeah, we can answer the question, who gets it when you pass away, but we also have to answer the question, what happens if you get really, really sick before you pass away? Because we're seeing people going broke in nursing homes. And I can tell you firsthand, most lawyers aren't talking to their clients about this. And it's not because they don't know that this type of planning is possible, it's because it doesn't align with their philosophy. They're just there to get you the simple will so that they can get on to the divorce that they're really concerned about or the lawsuit that they're about to file next week. They're not really worried about this simple will that they've kind of pegged you as that have come through the door. And so, from my standpoint, and it sounds like you've got a lot of the same idea, is we got to do a ton of education. We got to let them know what your options really are, and then do our philosophies line up? Like if I come in and say, I think you need to probably consider protection of assets, or at least how are we going to get your long-term care? And then the person says to me, I don't give a darn about that. I don't give a darn. Well, I mean, from a technical standpoint, I can adjust, but we may not be a great fit because this person is not concerned with a thing that I'm seeing as a giant red flag for them. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
So I think the philosophy matters. And then another thing, the process. You were talking about the process. So like, let's say someone engages you to do some work for them. What can they expect in the first year? What can they expect thereafter? Because sometimes like I'll ask clients, you have a financial advisor? Yeah, but I never hear from the guy, right? So like, tell me about your process.
Well, again, all great points and important parts of what I consider, the relationship. So the process is front-loaded because there's a lot of work initially for the client to understand what they need to do.
And decisions to make.
Right. It's a two-way street.
Right.
Oftentimes clients have to go back and reconsider things, find information, and really take that goal planning to the next level, which is search for the real motivation behind what it is that they want to do. So that first set of meetings, it could be more than one, fall in that build phase. We're building the vision that they want to see realized at some point in the future. The second phase, again, could be a single meeting, but usually is 2 meetings, depending on the complexity. It can be more than that, but this is the plan. This is where you're actually implementing, or not implementing, but you are inputting all of the data, if you will. You're constructing the forecasts and then reviewing that information with the client to see if there's tweaks that need to be made. Financial planning is as much art as it is science. It's not 1 + 1 = 2 because the playing field changes. People's lives change,
right? And
you need to be able to adjust.
It's kind of like when I was in the service, and I think one of my favorite authors, Jocko Willink, had mentions this in one of his things, and he says the enemy gets a vote, right? So like if you're in the military and you're constructing a battle plan, we can write this great plan, but the enemy gets a vote, meaning the enemy is probably thinking about what your plan is, and they're going to do something to disrupt what you're up to, and so they get a vote in how this thing is actually going to go. And it's the same way with like retirement planning, I would assume, is the market might get a vote, or your spending habits might get a vote, meaning you might feel differently about spending money in 10 years, or you might have a family member go through a long-term care thing, or you might have a family member go through a divorce, and you might have unexpected inheritance come in, right? So like there's the plan, but then the plan has to be flexible enough to respond to what happens when something else comes in and disrupts what we were thinking, right?
And that goes to the third phase of our process. The grow process is really, what is the rhythm of the relationship?
Mm-hmm.
And again, if I'm a consumer, if I'm the public looking to work with an advisor, and you tell me that you're going to meet with me, my question is, how often? What does that look like? How is that communicated? And where does that live? Where do I see what it is that you're going to do for me? So we spell that out, and this kind of circles back around to your question on, being a fee-for-service advisor. But we want to establish a rhythm to the relationship, meaning there are certain checkpoints where we're going to reach out to you proactively, whether you need it or not. And you might say, hey, I'm good right now, or hey, thanks for the update. Whatever we left off with in the last meeting, we're going to follow up on, and we're going to do normal, regular check-ins. But at the same time, life can throw you a curveball. So we're always there to make adjustments to the plan. And that's where, the grow phase is kind of that ongoing relationship.
Right. It's like when you're following the GPS driving and you make a stop and it starts going recalculating, right? Right. So it's kind of like that. And I speak with my clients. They probably get tired of hearing me say the words, estate planning is a process to be managed rather than a thing that we did one time, right? Because people will come in with these 20-year wills and they've never talked to a lawyer since, and man, in 20 years a lot of things happen. The kids now have their own kids, and I'm in a lot different health position than I was 20 years ago, and my parents are no longer living, or whatever the thing is. And people from an estate planning standpoint just sort of check the box, yeah, I've got a will, and then they go on living their life. And it's like, whoa, wait a second. Things happen, your priorities are going to change. We probably ought to revisit this thing from time to time. Which gives me to our mid-show commercial break, where I direct people to go to our website at sechlerlawfirm.com, SECHLER lawfirm.com. We're going to find out all about our workshops. Now, you got to come to one of our estate planning workshops. And there are a couple coming up this week. You can still get in. What you do is you go to the website, sechlerlawfirm.com, go to the workshops tab. Now at the workshop, you are going to learn all about different estate planning tools. If you've got questions about wills versus trusts, if you've got questions about death taxes, if you've got questions about how can I make sure I don't lose my house to the nursing home, well, these are all things that we talk about in the workshop, and I do talk about the importance of the relationship between the attorney and the financial advisor. And I should point out here on the show that there's no financial relationship between myself and Brian or any other financial advisor for that matter. Brian's here because he's one of a class of financial advisors that I personally work with my clients, and he does a great job. And so I asked him to come on the show just to tell you what working with an advisor looks like when it's really done well. And so if you want to find out more information about Brian, his website is bpgplanning.com, or you could call at 724-719-3289. And so now the fee-for-service thing. So what are the different ways? I suppose there's a couple of different ways that financial folks get paid, right? And you even have to be careful with the title that I use for financial folks, because there's people that really are licensed to sell insurance products, and those people, generally speaking, are paid a commission for selling an insurance product, right? And then there's people that are paid fee service like yourself, and then there's people that are paid other variable commission type thing, and I'll let you elaborate on that. But what you pointed out at the very beginning of the show that you're a fee-based service. What does that mean to you?
You can engage with us and simply pay a fee for advice. That's what it comes down to. And you can look at the website, you can see the various offerings under each price point. Some people require more attention because their situation obviously is more involved. Some folks just need some very basic financial planning and guidance, and there isn't as large of a time commitment for either side.
Sure.
Right? So there is the fee-for-service model that someone can choose to engage in. But in terms of the industry, Advisors can be compensated based on assets under management. So, fees on money that they're actually, that they have, under their management. Or, as you mentioned, commission products. I mean, a lot of products do generate a commission. In today's world, some of those same products now are going the way of fees, so you can obtain those same products and have a fee associated with them and not a commission.
So does that mean that you don't necessarily need to take my assets under management for you to give me advice?
Correct.
So let's say I'm a guy who has been working for the same company for the last 30 years, and I got the 401k plan there, but I'm still working, right? So I can't really move the money out of the 401k plan, but I really do want to start planning for what 5 or 10 years looks like from now. I will eventually retire. At that point, I might move the money out of the 401k plan. So you could start working with me now, anticipating that future move, even without moving the assets.
Correct. And really, this kind of goes back to my philosophy in that I think one of the most important roles an advisor can play or does play in our client's life is being one of, for lack of a better term, an advocate. And, it's an overused term, but if you are someone that has gone through a protracted health event or has been responsible for putting someone, a loved one, in a care facility, you know the weight and the time it takes to advocate for either your own health or someone else's. So by engaging an advisor on a fee platform for service, you want to know that that advisor is going to be advocating for you and engaging with your attorney and engaging with your CPA and engaging with your plan administrator on your 401k. Basically working out in front of the actual plan itself to reduce points of friction and resistance so that it is easier for you to ultimately create or fulfill that vision that you're building.
Very cool. And you mentioned about, thinking about long-term care and different things in there. So it's a great segue for the question that I like to ask people when they come on the show is, what does estate planning look like to you? Like, what's effective estate planning look like to you and to your clients?
Well, again, I think that it first starts with the client's vision. What do they want? Estate planning involves a lot of emotion. We're talking about a level of permanency that there's nothing else to compare it to. So you usually have a family dynamic involved, and this is really important because in multiple situations with my clients, I'm 3 generations deep. It's very important to understand what a client wants to have happen with the next generation. And then estate planning is about the confidence that what it is that they want to have happen is actually going to happen.
Right.
And when, as the advisor, I feel it's my responsibility to help make those conversations between the client and the attorney and the client and the next generation happen in a way that continues to build their confidence that this plan is actually going to be realized at some point in time.
That's great. That's a great explanation, and it's a great point of why your financial advisor and your attorney need to be on the same page, because you could make the world's best investment decisions for a client, right? I mean, you could get them 30% return year in, year out. Now he can't, and his back office is not going to be happy I even mentioned a percentage. But you could get him a great return on an investment. I could write him the world's best will, but if you and I aren't talking, you might slap beneficiary designations on all these accounts going to wherever they're going to go to, and then the client, as part of the conversation we're having with them, is that they want the money to go elsewhere, they have charitable intentions, or that they want to protect assets from long-term care, they want to do some other thing. And if you and I are not talking about this client's goals and their desires and what they want to see happen, then one of us is going to do something with their legal affairs or with their financial affairs that is going to impact the other person's plan, and now the two things aren't working well together. And so to be done well, this really has to be sort of a coordinated thing. So Brian, you got about 1 minute left for any concluding thoughts you may have, or any final things that you want people to know about your planning services.
Well, actually, I'd like to say that this year is the first year, something I've thought about for a very long time, that BPG Planning is going to be donating 0.5% of pre-tax gross revenue to conservation efforts. It's something that I'm pretty passionate about, to say the least. I'm an outdoorsman. And it's something that I believe in, and I believe that while doing well, we can all still do good.
Right, so, okay, that's wonderful. So donating, say it again, what percentage?
0.5% right now.
0.5% off
we
the
got
top
off the
line.
ground, yep.
Top line, not the bottom line.
Right.
We get to play with the bottom line number, but
Right.
0.5% off the top line is going to conservation efforts, which is awesome. I too am an outdoorsman, and I appreciate you doing that. We got to conclude this thing. You have been listening to the Life and Legacy Show, sponsored by the Sechler Law Firm. You can find out more about the law firm at sechlerlawfirm.com or call 724-546-4227. Our guest this week has been Brian Pitell, and you can learn more about him and his office at bpgplanning.com, 724-719-3289. Brian, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.